I've been thinking a lot about silence lately, and not just silence in the sense of the absence of sound, but silence as a container, silence as a revolutionary practice, silence as a space where so many revelations can enter. We always begin with solitude. Solitude. We always we begin in solitude, or I am in solitude, but we begin with gratitude. And I want to just thank you for being here and let you know that I'm so honored to have your energy and your presence here in this space with me. Peace. I am LA, licensed therapist, holistic wellness coach, and guide, and the creator of this channel, Reconnect with You. Silence has been on my heart a lot lately, and I think that's because there is so much happening and shifting in the world, and we live in a really busy and noisy world. And I think about silence as medicine, silence as a tool, and also just silence as a practice. And if you are like me and you are also a highly sensitive person and you get overstimulated easily, or sometimes experience overstimulation, silence is definitely a form of medicine, and it is a meditative and calming practice for you. I want to share a little bit more with you about a very transformative experience that I had at a 3-day silent meditation retreat. And I attended this retreat. Initially, it was one of the requirements for a certification program that I was going through to become a meditation and mindfulness teacher and instructor. One of the requirements was for us to attend a silent meditation retreat and basically report back our findings, our notes, our observations. And I'm so grateful that this was a requirement in the program that I was going for, because to this day, attending that retreat was one of the best experiences of my life. I actually want to attend another retreat, and I have since then incorporated silent meditation retreats for myself, just in my own practice and in my home. So that was what initially brought me to the space of attending that retreat. It was a requirement for a mindfulness and meditation certification program I was going through. And this was the first time that I was silent for 3 days. And I initially thought that it would be very challenging, and it was, but not in the ways that I thought it would be. I thought that it would be challenging because a part of the retreat experience was that in addition to not speaking and not talking, we also didn't have access to any electronics. There was an option to basically turn your phone in when you checked in, and I'm not sure where they kept the phones and electronics, but I opted to keep mine in my room. I did have a space. I think I locked it away in the drawer that was in my room, just because I am very disciplined and I practice pretty good self-control. And I knew that I would in that situation with the retreat, because I wanted to honor the fullness of the experience. So I knew that I wasn't going to use my phone because we were told not to. And for me, what was surprising about it was how uncomfortable silence can make folks, and even myself. I remember being not so much uncomfortable with the silence. I think it was more so that I felt that I would not be understood, or that I would have difficulty being understood or being felt without being able to use my words. And they did have an option to have like there was a notepad, and they had these little I I think like note cards or little cards that you could write messages on. Let's say you needed help with something or you needed to know where something was. So there were options to use your words, but not so much with speaking. We were required to, any language that we use or any words were written. And I actually I didn't need to take advantage of that option, but it made me more comfortable with the experience, that I knew that option was there. If I needed something, I knew that I could still use my words and write them down and get what I needed. Something that really shifted for me, I found myself being really in touch with my emotions. And I will share very openly and transparently that a couple of months before I attended the retreat, I had experienced sexual assault. And I won't go into the details in this video, and I don't think I've ever talked about that on my channel, but I'm mentioning that because my relationship with my body and sex and violation of my body came up a lot for me during that retreat experience. And I think that's because I was really sitting with all of my emotions. When you are in a space of silence, in a way, it feels like everything else stops and it feels like time slows down. And when you give yourself an opportunity to sit in silence, to really be with the silence, you will be surprised at what comes up. And that's why I really like using silence as a tool for processing, for healing, and for holding space for yourself, because whatever needs to come up and out is going to end the silence, especially if you are in a space where you're ready to acknowledge whatever it is that's coming up. I found myself feeling really at peace. This was at a retreat center in Santa Cruz in California. So, and I absolutely love the scenery in California, or at least the places in cities that I've been to in California. And I think that added another part of the experience, that we were out in nature. We had access to a lot of greenery. I remember there was a pond and a fountain in the back, and there was just a lot of space where we could walk in the grass, or we could just sit outside and really connect with nature. So we got to be in and with silence in community with other folks, but we also had a lot of access to what I'm going to call meditative tools. And this was an eye-opening experience for me, because I had never intentionally sought out silence. And after that, I knew, I was like, I need to do this on a regular basis. I want to do this again. And that's why I'm so grateful for the retreat center, and I'll leave their information in the description of this video. But the name of the retreat center is Insight Retreat Center. And I'm so grateful to them because they kind of gave me a blueprint to be able to lead these retreats for myself. And again, because I am so disciplined and I take my healing and my wellness very seriously, I knew that I could implement this on my own. Now, granted, it looks very different when you are hosting a silent retreat for yourself in your home, where there are just more distractions. You may have other people around. There might be electronics. You have a TV, and you may not have a garden out back that you can go and meditate in. So it's a very different experience, but I've done it several times and I do it regularly, and it is really life-changing. So I like to think of these tools that I'm speaking about in silence is really accessible. It's all about finding what works best for you and how you want to tailor that experience to your specific and unique needs. But something else that shifted for me in the retreat experience, I noticed when we transitioned from not speaking or to being in silence for 3 days to then hearing sounds again, it was pretty jarring. I remember the retreat ended on the day that we were flying out. And now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know that that was the best practice. If I could give a recommendation, I would recommend that if you are traveling for your retreat, we just so happen to be traveling. If you're traveling, I would recommend that you try to book your travel around the ending of the retreat or after the ending. The retreat ended the same day that we were flying out. So we were literally, the retreat ended and I think we were heading pretty quickly to the airport after that. And being in an airport after, especially being in, well, we weren't at LAX. I can't remember the name of the, we flew into Santa Cruz. I can't remember the name of that airport, but any airport for that matter, it was really jarring. So I remember having a lot more sensitivity to sound. So I would recommend, really with any practice, whether it's a sound journey, whether it's fasting, I always try to account for some type of transition period. So not going straight from whatever the container is that you created for yourself back into your usual environment. I would try to build in some time. And this is just, these are my reflections, but that's just like a recommendation. I'm sharing my reflections on my retreat experience. I think something else that surprised me is what I noticed about how slowly I was able to move. I remember there was a long hallway that we used to walk down, and this was the same hallway that they used, or I can't remember their title, but it was one of the people that was helping with the retreat. And they would go down the hallway and they would ring this bell to wake us up in the morning. We would wake up every morning, I believe it was 6 a.m. And we were basically in meditation all day from 6 a.m. to, I want to say, like 10 p.m. at night. We were in meditations all day, different types of meditations. So we did walking meditations, we would sit. We also did cleaning meditations, or what we called them, where we all kind of pitched in with cleaning and cooking. And it was just this really beautiful communal experience around silence. And we would connect with each other over smiles, over just kind of like kind looks, exchanging kind looks, because we couldn't speak. And I actually don't want to say that we couldn't speak, right? You can do whatever you want to do. It's more so that we were all in that space making a conscious choice because of our commitment to the retreat. We were making a conscious choice to not speak in that space. And my retreat experience was that we all upheld that. And what I noticed is that I just felt really calm and peaceful in that space. And I found myself moving a lot more slowly. Even my walking, I would walk really slowly. And that was the first time that I had the realization of how fast I'd be out here moving sometimes. Like, it's like, where are you in a rush to? Why are you walking and moving so fast? So even sometimes now I might be out for a walk and I'm walking really fast. I will stop mid-walk, I'll take a breath, and then I'll resume at a slower pace, because I associate moving fast with fear, with scarcity, with anxiety, and it just doesn't feel good to me when I'm moving fast. I don't like moving in that way. And so I just this retreat was just this really rich experience that taught me a lot of tools that I still pull on and access to this day. And when I think about silence, I even incorporate silence into my sound journeys. I'm a sound journey practitioner, which I know I've talked about here before. And in my sound journeys, I tell folks, whoever I'm holding space for, silence is a sound too. Let's hold space for the silence, because I think that there can be a lot of discomfort around silence. And I've even had conversations with folks where whenever there's silence, all types of settings too, whenever there's silence, it's almost like people feel like it needs to be filled with something. Like the silence alone is not enough on its own. Like it has to be filled with something. But silence has so much value. There's so much richness in silence if you are willing to sit with and be with it. and sometimes intentionally seek it out. I think that silence has a lot to teach us. I think that silence, it helps us to hear from ourselves more clearly. I know that I use silence a lot in my intuitive practices and in really connecting more deeply with my intuition. Silence plays a big role in that. I also think about silence and presence and how silence helps us to be more present, helps us to allow time for processing, for understanding, for transition. So I think silence can feel uncomfortable, especially if you're not used to it. But that discomfort is usually a call of some sorts. It's a call to you that there is some resistance there for you with allowing yourself to pause or to be still. I want to offer you some gentle ways that you can practice silence. I think one of the, and I feel like y'all will really relate to this one, but one way that you can start to incorporate silence is in the morning. The first thing you do when you wake up, I know a lot of folks, the first thing they do is grab their phones. Instead of grabbing your phone first thing in the morning, be in silence. And this could be for any amount of time, especially if you're first starting off. I would start off with just a few minutes. Start off with saying to yourself, okay, I'm not going to speak. I'm not going to turn on any music. And I'm not going to use or look at my phone for the first 10 minutes after I wake up, or the first 15 minutes, or the first hour if you want to really push yourself. I also think another gentle way of inviting in silence is pausing before you speak. And I've talked about that. Actually, I have a video specifically about the power of pausing and why it's important. But also just with pausing before you respond. Allowing yourself to really sit with whatever's being asked of you or whatever has just happened in the conversation. But pausing before you speak is another gentle way of inviting silence in. One other way that I love to incorporate silence is on my walks. Go for a short walk without no music, no audiobooks, no podcasts, and if you can, no phone. Just go for a walk. And no speaking either. Go for a walk and just see what you notice about the different sounds around you. And then, lastly, I do want to share that just like me, you also have the option of incorporating silent meditation retreats for yourself at home. Now, I like to go all out. I like to really push and challenge myself. And I find that 3 days, and I've talked about this with my fasting practice too, 3 days is a sweet spot for me. So I prefer to just do a full shutdown for 3 days because I'm really able to really get into my practice. I think doing one day, and I feel the same way about fasting, doing one day is too quick for me. It's not long enough. But for you, one day, maybe it might be too long, or it may be just long enough. If you even want to start with, let me do a half day, or let me do 4 hours of silence, whatever you feel like you can incorporate and can manage, while also challenging yourself a little bit, I would encourage you to do that. So those are, and I wasn't counting, I think I offered 4 or 5 ways that you can invite some gentle silence into your life. But those are some practices that I would highly recommend. I want to close us off with just a prompt for reflection, as I always do. I like to leave y'all with something just to reflect more deeply on, because I do value introspection. I invite you to see silence as a return to yourself. Silence as a way of connecting with yourself more deeply. Your true self, your true essence. And the prompt, and I was also thinking about the prompt. The prompt that I want to leave y'all with is, what are some associations that you have with silence? And what are some opportunities that you see in your own life to incorporate silence? Feel free to draw on some of the practices that I offered, or if you have other ones that come to mind for you, I would love to hear from y'all down in the comments. Please share this video with anyone that you feel like it resonates with. I think with all of the chaos and the busyness around us, silence is definitely one of the things that I want to invite you to add to your toolbox if it resonates with you. So that is all that I have for y'all today. I look forward to connecting with y'all again soon. In the meantime, embrace silence and reconnect with you. Peace, y'all.